Welcome back to Combust Astrology. My name's Liv. I'm going to be going into the Saturn and Aries transit for Taurus risings. You can also use your sun or your moon if you'd like, but this is primarily focused towards those Venusians. So, if I had to summarize it, it's just ununderstandable. Ununderstandable. It's really difficult to fully explain how this feels. As someone with a Taurus rising, already experiencing a lot of this transit, I feel like the biggest three things that I could say is that you slow down while other people speed up. You need more rest while other people start going. And you need to let go while other people start holding on. These three things is what Saturn in Aries is here to teach us. And I think a big part of that lesson is due to the fact that we are always on the go. We're actually always going out of our way to be present, be extremely outside, and bring happiness, right? When you think of the fourth, the eighth, and the 12th house, the planets that are usually in water signs, right? Cancer is usually here, Scorpio is usually here, and then Aries is usually here. They are very emotionally driven towards how it is that we go through this life. Being a Venusian means that life has to be fulfilling. There has to be emotion connected to it in a way that you have vibrato, right? And so when you have Saturn coming into this 12th house after having Saturn in Pisces sitting in our um, 11th house for like a very long time, unfortunately, it's a really different feel, because now instead of it just being something where it's like, hey, let's learn about who's really our friend, our intuition, our dating, our romance, our money, and also how we connect with a deep sense of love and with the esoteric because of our conquest for self. It's now about ourselves. And I think that for us, it really comes down to how it is we're going to navigate this period of time as we move on to when Saturn moves into Taurus. We're going to cultivate, we're going to culminate all the things that we've been kind of studying since the Great Conjunction, or since, the C word, and when Saturn was back here. It really started a little quarter cycle for us. So Pluto is also a really big factor, as is for all risings, but especially for this rising. Pluto becomes very important because here, during this transit, Pluto is going to sextile it at first. And so Pluto having a direct sextile to the Saturn and Neptune for a little bit is going to make it so that now you are a person who is looking for the complete growth. And because you're looking for the complete growth, you need to foster reflection. And when I do these videos, it's me sitting in PJs, kind of comfy with some incense lit up as if I was giving a reading. And this is really just the way that it feels the most comfortable. But that essence already is something that I'm learning, having a Venus rising of Taurus, that it's not necessarily to have such a physical presence as much as I thought I needed to. Pluto entering in the 10th house definitely showed you during the period of time in 2024 when it first entered that, yeah, we're going to be analyzing what it is that we need for the future. We're going to be looking at how it is that we can deal with life in a new way, because it was necessary then. Saturn was still in Pisces, and the North Node in our 12th house was showing us like we need to break free. There is something that's holding us back, and we got to break free. And the Jupiter in Gemini had came in, and it was like, there's a lot that you need to break free from, but I'm here for you, because otherwise you would kind of be lost. You also wouldn't take the risk. You also wouldn't feel secured enough at the idea that you can have more. So the Jupiter transit came in here to be like, hey, our current life is not the harmonic stabilized point of view that we thought it was, and that we've been going through, and that we kind of lied to ourselves in a way that we thought life was romantic, but it's not like that anymore. So when we come back to the Saturn in Aries for us, it is like, okay, now that we've broken away and probably destroyed that point of view that we used to have, how do we now reassess and regroup for our own well-being? Well, you can't do that unless you step away. And it's been, even for me personally, very difficult because, the Pluto in the 10th house is very strong. And with my other placements, it's also very much a part of me. And realizing that Pluto came in to destroy what I thought should have been doing, to now showing me what I need to do. But then consequently, it's like that old past is still lingering. And it's not that that past has to completely go away, but I think it's more so you have to be realistic about what that past, like the role that it plays in front of you. You're not going to just be able to, you know, like completely erase it now. It's going to take some time because Pluto did its damage, but it's almost like space debris. It's still kind of there. It's like floating and whatnot, but it's still like there. So that desire to now evolve is where Saturn comes in, and it's like, okay, I'm going to show you why it is you have to choose yourself. And I feel like outside of it giving us isolation, it kind of brings some sexy back to us. It kind of brings some like, we're going to feel great again. And we're going to kind of feel happy about what it is that we do day by day. We're going to probably also be a little bit frustrated that we've even settled for where we got to and we didn't desire more, because it's going to feel like, what? Me? Like, it'll also be a little bit nostalgic because it's like remembering where that we've come from, and then now being like, no, we absolutely have to get back to the top. Like, there's no justification. But being the 12th house, Aries deals with anger, and it's very much about the rage of the subconscious, right? And I love Liz Green. I love Liz Green and Howard Sasspertas. My one of my mentors, Luna Michaels, like, she referenced this to me, and so I've always watched them, and I love these two because of the fact that the psychological astrology is like, it's chef's kiss. It's so amazing. And one of the things that they cover with that is how, everything that is around you before you're born is in that subconscious. And that subconscious is the 12th house, right? And as we start looking at that 12th house, that subconscious, you have to decide, if you're going to let the truth out, and so far from what I've seen in other Taurus risings, and even in myself, we're actually less patient than we bring on. We actually don't have as much patience for things or people. We kind of just smile because we're like, it doesn't bother me, whatever. But as Uranus was in Taurus for a long part since 2017 till now, it's been kind of breaking and chipping away. We've changed our looks. Like, Uranus and Taurus has made us subtly more impatient. Because as we've been someone that's been, consistent and stable for people, they've not been that way for us. They've been chaotic. And so now, because of the energetic, what is it again? I think it's like the mutual reception. That's the word. Of Aries, where Mars, the planet, rules both Scorpio and Aries, the mutable reception, if you have Scorpio placements, but in general, the 7th house, where it wants to be Libra, is now experiencing this sort of fallout where it's like, I just don't care. I don't give a fuck. Like, if that's how you want to go about things, cool. I'm not going to sit here and try to make sense of everything. And I feel like that really helped the narrative of Saturn when it was in the 10th house to give us a breakaway from what we thought was possible and give us more. Saturn and Jupiter in the 10th house, for a lot of people that had Taurus rising, was phenomenal, right? The bag was being acquired. Okay, post-COVID, you got on a TikTok shop or you got online, you were making money. You were making money. And it also lets you make money from the comfort of your own home in a way that you were like, oh yeah, this can never stop. This can never end. Newsflash, it kind of slowed down, right? Because the Saturn in the Jupiterian sign of Pisces was like, all right, slow your roll because you're running on luck and you don't have a plan. Like let's be realistic now because we don't want to have you too crazy, and I think that it's necessary. The Saturn cycle was necessary here because even though we had lack, you've been here before, so you know that the sky's the limit for you. But as we go now back into that side of that 12th house, we come back to Saturn saying, it's going to take some time, but I need you to now be independent. I feel as though this current cycle and the return of Saturn makes Taurus risings very independent. It doesn't mean you can't have love. It doesn't mean you can't have like a really strong connection to community and people, but there is a desire to be independent that you probably weren't looking at. So if you're someone that is, first of all, reaching our first Saturn return, good luck. Okay, try not to die. But if you're getting your first Saturn return, I think it was like 1996 to 19. I didn't put that in the other video for Aries risings. Damn. Whatever. So if you're getting that first Saturn return, then this will be like a new experience because all of a sudden it's like things are clicking immediately, especially since it's your subconscious, right? Be mindful of what's popping out that you are realizing, actually, I don't care. And then if this is your second go around, you might think to yourself, if you had a child the first go around of Saturn, right? If you decided to move to a whole new place of living when you had that first Saturn, all in the name of family, right? If you were looking to make a long-term investment that maybe didn't pan out, or it did, but you never tried to change, you got comfortable, right? The Jupiter and Gemini definitely came in and was like, all right, you owe some money. Let's get these dues out the way. But it's okay because the future transits will be in your best interest. Neptune will stay here, and in a few years, as Neptune stays there, Jupiter will move into a nice little like quarter of where it goes through Cancer, Leo, Taurus, and Libra. I love these. These are going to be some good Jupiters, right? Not that the other ones weren't, but it was a lot, right? It was awkward. And so once Saturn is done and it moves into Taurus, it's going to be in our first sign. And then all of a sudden, while Chiron is there, it'll be like, hey, like let's pamper. Let's give ourselves more, right? I love the nodes conjuncting into Pluto because honestly, this feels like let's game plan. Like the next 2 years for us is game planning. It is sitting back, watching the world go crazy, and laughing because we're not. And we see how this is really playing out. And so we're sitting from the 12th house on a high horse or something. This is clouds. And then we're just looking down at everyone else in Shibuya, just running around like stick figures, like insane, like the world's going to end. But we're like, hey, everything's going to be okay. Everything's going to be fine. And nothing can bother me because I've lived through hell. If you have a 12th house, Saturn in Aries, if you have a Saturn in Aries, our will is unbreakable. No one's going to kill us. We're going to be the generation in history that people are going to be so annoyed at because our Saturn refused to give up. Refused. And so with the trine with Jupiter and the South Node, and then eventually as other planets move on towards this cycle, I think it's going to be great. There's other stuff for Pluto squaring, the Saturn to come by, right? That'll be some stability stuff with identity. But for now, this is a great transit that really does bless us. Anyway, that is pretty much the gist. I will be covering more as time goes on with this transit. But for now, I do want to say thank you so much for watching my videos. I'm trying to post one video a day. I really refuse to promise that because it feels like I got to move from one platform to another. I went from posting on TikTok to now posting here to now, but I will be also uploading a podcast with my co-host, Anna Kate, on my astrology podcast, Unadorned Astrology. Check the links. And then I will be doing updates. I teach in person and I also teach online. So keep an eye out for that on my Instagram. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Appreciate it and take care.